Well, welcome back into Talking Fitchburg. We're continuing our special series with the Fitchburg Fire Department on Fire Prevention Week, which is coming up here in October, or as you're watching this, I suppose it is the week of Fire Prevention Week.
Sure is.
Nevertheless, I have Mark Balekish here from the Fitchburg Fire Department, who is going to be taking us through a whole bunch of different things for Fire Prevention Awareness Week. Mark, I just appreciate it, first off, and appreciate the fire department and as a whole, but as we look at this week, this is the week to highlight the fire department.
This is it, man. We live for this all year long. We, as a fire department, our entire job is to support our community and serve our community, and the best way we think that we can do that is to give back a little bit, and that's what Fire Prevention Week is really about.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we are going to focus on what is Fire Prevention Week, and it starts with a very famous fire that took place in Chicago. At the same time, another fire in Wisconsin too, which you'll get to, but take us back.
Yeah, so generally speaking, Fire Prevention Week was created to commemorate the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. It happened on October 8th, and legend has it that Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over a lantern in the barn, which started a fire.
Jeez.
As I understand, there really doesn't seem to be proof that Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicked over a lantern, and I've also read reports where Mrs. O'Leary disputes the accounts that it was her cow that did start the fire.
Oh my gosh, there wasn't a lot of forensic evidence pieces collected back then, right?
Back then there wasn't, and also as I've understood it, the fire was so devastating there probably wasn't much to look at as it stood, right?
Yeah, it burned a lot.
Yeah, 17,400 structures were lost just in Chicago, and 2,000 acres were burned. That's a lot. Add to that, 250 people lost their lives, and more than 100,000 people were left homeless after the Great Chicago Fire.
And meanwhile, at the same time, there was another fire that happened that was quite large, and it was right here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so one of the biggest wildfires ever was the Peshtigo Fire. And that actually started on the same day. It lasted a couple of days. The story goes that there were railroad workers who were trying to clear a path for a new railroad line, were burning brush, and the brush got away from them. It occurs to me that with both of these fires occurring on the same day in sort of the same region, it must have been really dry conditions. I've never looked back on the weather, but I got to believe that the conditions were super dry that day.
Yeah, and this one, 16 towns were destroyed, and Peshtigo was burnt within a few hours. I mean, it's just gone.
Yeah, so I visited the Peshtigo Fire Museum, which I'd highly recommend people that are up in that area go see.
On my bucket list.
But it gives a really gruesome account of people running for their lives and jumping into the river and jumping into any water source that they could get to just to get away from the flames, because the flames were moving that fast. So it was, like I said, they know how it started. It's labeled as a wildfire. And like I said, because of the weather conditions, it must have just been super dry. The fire was just too much for anything to overcome.
1,150 people perished in that fire, which is an incredible amount of life lost in a single fire. But when you're looking at 16 towns and the number of acreage, I mean, it's just devastating. Other fun facts that you have for, I mean, not fun, but I mean, it kind of sets up how we got to this day.
Yeah, so that gets us here, right? In 1922, President Woodrow Wilson created Fire Prevention Day. It was a national day to recognize the fact that we need to take a look at ways to keep fires from happening. It was becoming a growing problem as towns and cities got bigger. So it was a means for, the country to pause and think about it. And from that, really, Fire Prevention Week was born. Fire Prevention Week always occurs during the week of October 8th and 9th. So I think they picked the 9th specifically. That is when Fire Prevention Week starts. But it's really morphed into Fire Prevention Month, where we spend the entire month of October talking about, the same thing we're talking about year-round, but even more so. Hey, these are ways that we can keep people safe in their homes, and it was all born out of these historic events.
So we kind of started off with this, that it's an opportunity. You had mentioned this off the top, an opportunity for fire departments to highlight the many different things from education side of it, but I think it goes beyond fire prevention too, because you actually get to talk with your fire department, and you get to learn more than just fire prevention. You're learning about the behind the scenes, what the firehouse looks like, what the day-to-day operations, what the trucks look like. I mean, it's a whole bunch of things that accumulate to fire prevention.
Yeah, specific to the fire service, we're steeped in tradition, and that Fire Prevention Week comes out of a strong tradition of these incidents having occurred, and then ways for fire departments to get back to the community and educate people, right? Back then fire departments were truly fire departments. They fought fire. Nowadays, we're all hazards departments. We go to everything.
Yeah.
So the fire service has really changed, but it all has its roots right here in history.
All right, well, we'll continue this series all week long here on Talking Fitchburg as we promote Fire Prevention Week, October 6th through the 12th, 2024, if you're keeping track this year. Mark, appreciate the time and looking forward to talking to you with these topics.
Yeah, love to be here. Thank you.